sure she'll be here.
The blue record button will turn red. Oh, there it is.
You can turn it on anytime. We'll start.
I just did. I'm still reading the directions here.
Make sure the light on the camera is white. Guess it is. So I think we're good.
I'm good. How are you? These days are so hectic.
Hectic day.
Yeah, Thursdays are quite
Okay.
busy.
There she is. I had a fairly busy week.
Yeah.
Got a lot of work done. Barb came and helped me clean out at least a third of my basement. Move stuff into the pile for a sale and pile for junk and pile for family to check out. So we really got some good work done. I couldn't do it without her.
Yeah, you collect a lot of stuff after a long, even just a year. It's hard to also clean things out when you're like, I could recycle this.
It is. Yes,
A
very
lot of
hard.
Just throw it away.
Yeah, that's right. There's going to be 3 of us tonight. Rose is
Okay.
not feeling well.
Okay, I'll go right here.
Good.
Great.
So grab cushions
Nice.
or chairs or
Yes,
whatever
sir.
works for you.
So you're 3 of us, including you. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, 3
That's all.
students. I'm like, who are we waiting for?
Good. How was your Hilbert class?
Oh, I have to tell you something funny. When the teacher said that, was just like, they're the perfect group to teach mindfulness to.
Okay.
Teachers are not mindful. I'm a teacher. I was a public school teacher. I'm saying this, Are we being taped right now?
Could be. Yeah. Want to tell us
Well,
later or not?
No, it's just
I
that
was
they're
a
always
teacher
late.
too. I know.
They're always late.
Oh.
Other
don't
teachers
know.
are always late. And so that's why I'm late, because they were late. And then I said to them, I said, I don't know why we teachers are always perpetually late. And she said, it's because I'm the queen of one more thing myself to death again. That's what she said it. One more thing. Like she's always gonna do one more thing. I've got time for one more thing. And she said, I do it.
Oh, I get it.
And then I'm always late.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
I really
One
didn't
more
have
thing.
time for that one more thing.
I always thought it was because they didn't get a bathroom break till the end of the day.
Yeah,
That's
there's
how it
that
was
too.
when I was teaching. It was
Uh-huh.
like, by the end of the day, I just want to sit in a corner and go. Because your attention is just here.
Yeah. When they come to the mat, I just tell them what to do. Like they just want me to boss them around, like sit still. Breathe. I'm very direct with them because otherwise they come in so chatty.
Oh my.
And they're just telling you, they're constantly talking about all their students, everything that went on that day.
Someone asked us on this meeting, are you starting?
We're starting now.
Because you can't get in. Oh, you're just starting now?
Because
Yeah.
I was just blabbing.
Was it
Okay,
live
somebody's
stream?
trying to get in, you can't get in yet.
We'll start with a sitting meditation, please. Find a comfortable position where you can stay alert. And notice what your body feels like here, firmly planted on the ground. Then bring attention to the breathing. Notice the sensation of the in-breath and the out-breath. We're not trying to control the breath. We're just letting the breath take its natural rhythm. We can control the breath, but the body also breathes on its own. Just awareness, noticing the feeling of the in-breath and the out-breath. Notice the pause after the out-breath and the pause after the in-breath. Soon our attention will wander from the breath to a sound, perhaps. A feeling in the body, perhaps a tightness somewhere. A thought appears. We notice it. Let it go. Come back to the next breath. Just sitting and breathing. Nothing else to do right now. Giving our minds a time to rest. And notice how we feel. Welcome to week 3 of meditation class. For all of you out there, it's October 26th, Thursday, 2023. So I hope we've all been practicing, and I'd like to hear about how we're doing. If there's any questions that came up, anything in your practice that was particularly interesting that might be of help to other people. Perhaps you've done some journaling, some writing down of what's going on. That can be helpful. The reading from last week was about mindfulness of the body. So we're going to work some more on that today.
I had a question about guided meditation versus just meditating on your own. And I kind of wondered if you are using a video or a recording to meditate of somebody talking, or just somebody talking, and you're trying to get out of thinking, not having thoughts, is it better to try to meditate without that background talking? Because when people are talking, you're thinking about what they're saying. And so technically you're thinking. Just then I'm like, okay, is that okay?
Yeah, that's a
don't know.
good question. Because even without guided meditation, all of a sudden we'll be saying, oh, breathing, or oh, a thought. So that's another thought, right? So they're all just tools to help us stay in the moment and be mindful. So a guided meditation where you're listening to someone is valuable. I think we don't want to be listening to a lecture. That's not guided meditation. So a guided meditation really kind of steers us, you know. And sometimes I make that mistake myself. One time my teacher, Stephen, said, Michael, remember the difference between a guided meditation and a teaching, because sometimes during your guided meditation you want to tell us a little something about it, and that's going overboard. So you want just something that will help steer you toward being in the moment and noticing what's happening.
Okay, good.
I think.
That makes sense.
I'm a walker. I do take a lot of walks, but I also love to be barefoot. When I'm in my yard, I'm always barefoot, even this week when it's been raining, and because I just like to feel the mud and the grass and the leaves and the sticks and sometimes a bee under my feet, as much as I can. And so I decided to combine the two with the walking meditation. Often when I walk, I think I'm just walking to think it out. But this was purposefully to try not to think, but to just be practicing present awareness of what it had rained. And so there was a lot of sensations under my feet. It was kind of cold because, typically you're not barefoot when it's raining and 50 degrees, but and I did it for a while, and I just had a little loop in my yard, so it was a circle, so I just kept going around and tried not to think, tried not to get caught up in my thoughts, because thinking will happen. And feeling how my foot works, as the ground was very uneven and lumpy, and occasionally sticks and twigs and leaves were there, and practicing not reacting like, ooh, ow, that hurt, or maybe I should step over here instead. None of that, just like looking down, watching my feet, and it was really a great experience. I really enjoyed it, and we'll do it again for sure.
Good.
I think being barefoot was really another layer of because you're so grounded. You're so connected to the earth when you do that. So yeah,
Good.
that was a good new thing for me. I'm looking forward to doing it again. And I did highlight a few things that I thought I would bring up to just share that I thought was interesting, and if it interests, if it's particularly this idea of being mindful and being so focused on the present, and just how we always are looking for bigger things and thrills and louder things and flashier things, always, and how mindfulness and that present moment focus helps us see, and that was part of my walk too, oh, there's still a bumblebee on the aster. I'm so lucky that I get to see that right now, and then I'm actually enjoying it and watching him a little bit, and looking at how that aster is not really purple anymore, but kind of just the whole, just the whole thing. So the smaller things that you do pay attention to then when you're not so focused on the big flashy stuff. So.
Let me reflect on that a moment. I had those kinds of thoughts this past week, and I made that the meditation for one of my prison groups on Tuesday, I asked them, is it possible to notice something new in every moment, even in prison? And so we did sort of a guided general awareness meditation where I walked around a little bit and I rang the bell once in a while and said, well, what do you hear right now? What do you see? What colors? What shapes? You know, just different things like that. And they said, yeah, there's something new every moment if you really pay attention, and how wonderful it is.
I did that. I was reading Eckhart Tolle and talked about how you can do that. And when I used to drive the same drive every morning and home again every night, I would start to try to notice something new every time. And you see things that you overlooked that are just funny or amazing that you never noticed before. But in prison, I can imagine there really isn't a lot to see, but so that was probably really powerful.
Yeah, maybe other senses come in more, so like the hearing, like you said, that the hearing, because you can get kind of caught up and fixated on the same, what they're seeing. You know,
Just opened by itself.
I don't think the library is haunted.
It was open and cracked, but then it just, as you were talking, it goes, so I was like, oh my gosh, there's a ghost coming in. He's noticing that something.
I think they are celebrating the Day of the Dead next week after our session. That might be something to stay for.
It's a lot quieter too with that door closed.
you said something that, oh, to your story about the car ride. We live really close to Ledgeview, and I don't have any woods in my property, but being in the woods is really important to me. And so probably, if I'm lucky, it's once a week. I go to Ledgeview and I take a walk. It's not far at all from my house. And my kids, I've been taking my kids, well, I've been going since I moved here 20 years ago, and that's a lot of visits. I mean, I've been there a lot. And with the kids on my body for a while, and then the kids running alongside, and then, you know, just up on the shoulders, like all these times. And I have pictures on some of the same stump of the kids through the years, which is great. But they now they're teens, and they complain, like, I'm so sick of Ledgeview. We go there all the time. And what you said, and what I've tried to say, but maybe we'll now have a better way to do it. Nature is a great way to find new things all the time. And so, you know, let's look for something different. You know, we don't do the same path every time, but
Have you ever seen the cat?
no.
We call her ringtail meow meow. Because every once in a while we go there, she's there and she's in the woods meowing loudly, but she won't, I petted her once. But
Never saw her. She must come up from those homes.
and she has a white ring around a black tail. Or is it a white tail with a black ring? There's a lot that changes there all the time. I don't go as often as you, but we also live near there.
Yeah.
So,
Good.
but yeah, it's a great place.
Last week we worked on body awareness. We did body scan and yoga, mindful movement, and we found quite a bit to explore there. This week we're going to do some more about body awareness, and actually walking meditation is one we're going to do tonight. So you can do walking meditation in a variety of ways, and tonight I'm going to lead you through very formal walking meditation, like Sharon describes in the book, where you walk very slowly and notice the movement of each step. So there's not much, there's no ground or anything like you did there, but there's still noticing. So it's concentration. It's a concentration exercise. You can also do walking meditation informally, you know. Obviously, we need to keep our eyes open during walking meditation. So in some walking meditations, noticing what you see is part of it. So walking in the woods, you notice what you see, what you hear, and you also will bring attention to your steps. Right now, we're going to try to focus on the steps alone. We're going to notice on our feet and legs. Try to bring our thinking out of our head and down into our feet for a bit. On a lot of retreats, you'll be in a group where they'll walk around in a circle, which I've often done here. But I think this year, I think it's valuable to do it as she teaches in the book, where you walk just in a straight path, stop, turn around, walk back, turn around, just a path. So let's each find a place where we can walk in a straight line for about 10 paces.
I come over here.
Where's Amanda?
Okay, so we begin by just noticing how it feels to stand here. We can let our hands hang down or fold them in front or in back. Just find a comfortable spot. We're gazing softly up, 6 feet ahead of us or so. Stand here, notice our breathing. Before we take our first step, we're going to try to notice how we make an intention to step. So rather than just starting, we say, oh, I'm going to take a step. Okay, just notice that. Let's start with our left foot, okay? Lifting the foot and planting it. And then the right foot lifting and planting. Slowly walking, noticing the sensation of your foot lifting, meeting the floor. Notice what part of your foot meets the floor when you plant. Is it the heel and then the toe, or do you plant the whole foot? Doesn't matter, just noticing. And after a bit, stop. Mindfully turn around. Maybe stop for a moment there. Just notice how you feel. And start again. Notice the change in balance. Notice how the floor feels beneath your feet. Perhaps coordinate your breath with your step. Breathe in on lifting, breathe out on planting. Notice when your mind wanders, you have thoughts about what else you could be doing right now. Say, oh, thinking. Here it comes again. And chuckle at yourself. Bring your attention back to the next step. You want to softly say to yourself, lifting, moving, planting. Lifting, moving, planting. You may notice some other feelings in your body as walking that you don't normally notice, and just think, oh, my back feels a little bit different. Just noticing whatever is happening in the moment. And then notice the next step. And we can mindfully return to our seats. Any thoughts about walking meditation?
It's a good test of our balance.
Yes. When we walk so slow, it's easy to get off balance.
You feel every bone shift in your foot, trying to rebalance.
Mm-hmm. muscles are there involved, I wonder, huh?
I know there's about 75 bones in each foot.
75 bones in each foot.
Yes, maybe 78 actually. That's a lot.
I like it. For me, it's easier to stay with the meditation when I'm moving.
Yes.
And as soon as you link the breath, for me, that's another one. It's like,
I couldn't link the breath, but I didn't care. But I realized that one of my pants legs was shorter or longer.
Uh-huh.
So I did have to stop and adjust my pants
Yeah.
so that I wasn't stepping on it. But I mean, those are the things you notice when you pay attention, that you learn to tune out. Because I think a lot of times people who have attention challenges, they can't tune out all of that information, and we learn early on how to do that. I feel like I remember my dad tying my shoes for me when I was really little, and I would say, it doesn't feel right, just, it'll get better, you know, and then you start going through the day and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot about it, you know, like, but I don't know, certain people, I mean, a lot of people can't do that, and they have lots of issues because they can't tune out those little annoyances or sensations. So I'm wondering if meditation is a good thing for people with those types of challenges, or, well, it's good for everybody, of course.
it might actually help them
Yeah.
significantly.
Ironically, the way out is through.
There you go. When I was on retreat this summer, one of the teachers said something that really resonated with me. He said, pay attention to endings, which has many meanings, but I used it a lot in my walking. We did a lot of extended walking meditation on retreat. Basically, you sit for a while, then you walk. You sit, then you walk, then you have a little talk, then you sit, then you walk. And so when I was walking back and forth like this, I would stop at the end and I would pay attention. So what was I just thinking about? What is my mood right now? What's my experience? Stopping at the end of each course and just noticing that, and then starting again. So, oh, on that course, I was thinking about what's going to be for lunch or something like that, you know, so it made me more aware of what the thoughts were. Pay attention to endings.
The more you pay attention, the more you would realize what your tendencies are,
Mm-hmm.
and they might not change. I mean,
Right.
you might be able to change them, they might not change, but just by being aware of what your tendencies are can have an impact on how you relate
Yes.
or don't relate.
A lot of this is about noticing our habits. Things that we've just got so used to doing over the years. We've trained ourselves. When there's an itch, scratch it. When somebody says something, reply to it. So many things. And we each have our own individual habits, but there's group habits too. And just noticing, oh, I always do that. Do I have to? Maybe not. It's really freeing.
The beginning of the reading talked about piling on, and I thought that was very powerful for me, because that's one of the habits that I know I fall into. Like if something little goes wrong, like if I walk in a room and somebody doesn't say hi and I said hi to them, then my brain starts going, are they mad at me? What did I do? Then, you know, piling on, and to be able to recognize that habit and give it a name, it kind of frees you from the trap that you might have put yourself in. So, yeah, that was very powerful. So then I used it with my husband. He was like, are you maybe piling on? Yeah, I am.
Very Very good. Oh, it's really helpful if you can talk about what you're learning in meditation with someone who's close to you. It really expands it, I think.
Yeah.
If they can share that.
Plus, they share it, but you get more understanding by trying to communicate it,
That's true.
you know, like
Put
writing
it
it
to
down or
words,
by,
yeah.
synthesizing it.
Yes.
I often struggle with that because to communicate it, because I feel like I can get to a depth, you know, and maybe that person isn't at that depth, and I need to like make it not sound so heady or not so, you know.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Even my neighbor said it.
Woo-hoo, I love it.
That's
Yeah. Oh, you're doing that again. You're going woo woo.
yeah, and it's like, no, there's scientific studies now, right, that prove that just something as simple as sitting or breathing
Mhm.
can really help.
And you can share it, but they have to experience it. You know, they have to be ready to receive that information,
Mhm.
and then when
That's
they're
right.
ready, they'll experience it, and maybe it'll click, and maybe it won't.
Yeah.
But that's how everything is, I suppose, right?
So I have another body awareness meditation for us today, and it's eating meditation.
Yay. Yes. As long as it's not prime rib. I saw a picture of prime rib today, and I was like, just so disgusted by it. I love steak, but prime rib is like,
Yeah.
around these,
Yeah. Some restaurants have like,
yeah, it's just massive. It just didn't look cooked at all. This is
There's a
fresh.
traditional eating meditation where you meditate on eating one raisin,
Oh.
which is good, but last year in honor of my wife Jan, I changed it to M&Ms.
oh, bless Jan.
Is there anyone who can't eat peanuts? Okay, take one
Thank you.
and just hold it in your hand.
Thank you.
And I will guide us through
My mouth is watering.
eating. Yes, that's one thing we'll notice.
I'm worried about the color rubbing off in my hair.
Okay, beginning with our eyes open and just noticing this object in our hand, noticing the color and shape, letting it roll around a little bit, noticing the feel of it on our skin. Notice shininess and dullness. Notice the weight. Close our eyes. Feel it resting there. Now grab it in our forefinger and thumb of the other hand and roll it around a little bit. Feel its firmness or softness. Maybe use a couple of fingers to just notice the feel of the shape of it. Eyes closed, just noticing what this object feels like, just touching it lightly and rolling it. Maybe a little sticky. And it's good to just give little word names to what we feel. Notice. And then place it in our mouth and just let it sit there. Feel the shape of it, roll it around in the mouth a little bit. Hear the sound of it banging against her teeth. Begin to notice the flavor. Notice the saliva. Just letting it dissolve and letting it roll around. As the candy coating dissolves, noticing that, noticing the little swallows. Noticing the chocolate, what does that taste like? What's your emotional reaction to that? Getting down to the peanut, noticing the texture of that. And when we're ready, bite the peanut. And what's the flavor there? Where in the mouth do we taste it? Noticing the quality of the graininess or the smoothness as we swallow it. Notice that. How far down can you notice it during the swallow? And just notice what we feel like after we've eaten it. Have you ever eaten an M&M like that before? Not very often do we do that.
That was a really good item, I'll call it, to use because of the layers, and they're so different.
Yeah, I think so.
And I can't remember the last time I had one. And I was a little ahead of you.
That's okay.
I was like, oh, I wasn't supposed to bite it. That was like just a whole lot of different
Yeah.
observations, I guess.
Good.
I was wondering, like the candy coating, I guess I didn't really notice that the candy coating isn't really chocolate.
Mm-hmm.
Did you realize that?
Mhm.
What is it?
Uh-huh.
I don't know. And does the yellow taste different from the orange?
Okay.
Those guys
Well,
probably
you
do.
can try the other kind now. Eat it any way you like.
Good question.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you. I had some traumatic experiences come up. Honestly, I'm not making this up regarding this.
Traumatic?
A little bit. Like in 5th and 6th grade, my teacher was a nun. Her name was Sister Christine, and she was very particular. And for math, we would fold our papers up into these tiny little wedges, and we'd get a problem on the board, and we all had to write it on that little wedge, and then we'd have to go up by her and show her our wedge of paper. And if we got it right, and we showed all the work just right, thinking long division and like all the lining up of it, all the numbers, you would get an M&M. And it just went on like this. Students would just, then you go back to your seat and you'd unfold and refold and have a new square and a new problem, and it just continued.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot of kids who didn't get M&Ms.
Oh.
You know, it was hard. That
Yeah.
was the reward
Uh-huh.
for the knowing.
Yes.
Being a teacher, I know now that was really probably not, I don't know.
I had a 2nd grade teacher who wasn't a nun, and if you got it wrong, she would hit you.
Oh.
So I don't know which would be worse.
How old are you?
I know.
Seems like something from the Little House on the Prairie or
Well,
something.
my dad was a teacher in the district, so I never told my parents what this teacher was like. I used to injure myself so I could go to the nurse
Oh,
and get out of her room.
wow.
And afterwards, I told them, and I asked my dad, I said, "How, you know what she's like, how come you never said anything?" And he said, "Well, people who live in glass houses," you know, like he was a teacher himself, so it wasn't his place to judge another teacher's methods, yet if he really truly knew what she was like.
It doesn't sound like a method.
No.
Not something she learned
No.
in college.
Oh.
But M&Ms have no traumatic memories for me, but teachers
Well, the
do.
second one is just not the M&M so much as the, I grew up on a farm and eating was a very rushed experience,
Mhm.
always. And then there were a lot of us, and so it was like, get your food on your plate, you said prayers, and then you ate, and you didn't talk, there was no talking. It was like you ate, because everybody had to finish at about the same time and get out to the barn.
Oh.
And it's taken me a long time to break that, because it was when I moved away and was eating with friends and then eating boyfriends and a husband, they were just like, dang, you're done already. I was like,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'm hurrying up because I might have to go do something. So it's that reprogramming, like taking your time with things,
Mhm.
with eating as well. And enjoying what you're eating, because I'm still notorious for pounding tortilla chips with, you know, guacamole, because it's just so good, and not thinking once about the crunch and the salt and the, you know, the cilantro, and but cooking does help with that. Being someone who spends time in the kitchen, prepares a lot of food.
Then you want to appreciate it.
Yeah, the smells and the colors, and now I'm definitely a mindful preparer, particularly of food. I enjoy the chopping and the smells and, you know, and putting energy into food, you know, putting good energy into food for my family. So I'm not yelling at them while I'm making their food and putting all this like that energy into that food, you know.
Definitely are satisfied with a lot less when you eat mindfully, because those two M&Ms were very fulfilling.
Interesting.
And the orange tastes the same as the yellow.
Okay.
That's a good point.
There are some programs called mindful eating that are weight reduction programs where they just purposely learn to slow down and eat mindfully, and it is proven to help you lose weight. So you can understand if you slow down, you are satisfied with less, usually.
And I've heard that it's the way you sit.
Oh,
Like in Japan, a lot of times, like if you go to a sushi restaurant, you might sit on a pillow at a low table. And the effort it takes for you to sit upright makes you feel fuller faster. Whereas if you're in a reclining chair watching TV, eating food, you can kind of, you've got more space in your belly to eat more.
okay.
So.
Depends on the pants you wear.
So we learned that it is valuable, not just with eating and walking, but with any activity, just slowing down makes a difference. And if we can afford to do that, it really helps us be mindful. And we notice then, when we're not, oh, I'm rushing again, and slow down. So I eat it by myself quite a bit, and I notice I'm eating fast, and why? Why should I? I have plenty of time, and so I slow down, then I notice I'm speeding up again, so it's all habits. Good. Next week is week 4, and there's going to be a lot of stuff to learn. So the next chapter, week 3 in the book. Mindfulness and emotions, dealing with thoughts and feelings, is very good, very deep, and take your time reading through that. I haven't started rereading it myself yet, so I'm looking forward to it. And there's several different concepts or tools that are mentioned there that we're going to work on next week that really help us notice what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and how to work with that. So that's a good one. And by the way, last week, week number 2, was not recorded here. They didn't figure out how to do it. And so if you're watching from home, with some effort, you can find week 2 from last year. They're all archived, but it takes a little effort to find it, but they're there, I found it. And this week is being recorded, so that's good. And so next week, week 4, look forward to being with you then. I have one handout tonight. And this, I think I might have mentioned, I call Mindfulness Resources. It's a list of some things that I'll go over with you that may be helpful in your practice. If you want one and you're not here, you can email me and I'll send it to you. So I'm just going to go through some of these briefly. Most of these are books. Real Happiness, The Power of Meditation by Sharon Salzberg is the book we're using. Sharon Salzberg has a number of other books. A lot of them look kind of like this. There's Real Peace, I think, Real Kindness. Anyway, she has a lot of them there, and they're all good. Full Catastrophe Living by Jon Kabat-Zinn is the story of how he started the mindfulness-based stress reduction class at the University of Massachusetts Medical School, to which doctors referred people with stress-related medical conditions. And this course was so successful that it's been repeated around the country, and this is the course I took in Madison a few years ago. And they've used it as a research tool. They learned a lot and were able to prove a lot about meditation. So it's a really nice book about developing that practice. And Jon Kabat-Zinn has several other books. This one, Wherever You Go, There You Are, I highly recommend. It's got like 2 to 3 page little lessons that you can read quickly. So if you want something to read before your morning meditation, before your daily meditation, that is very nice. Jack Kornfield is another one of the best contemporary teachers of mindfulness. A Path with Heart is one of his. And Tara Brach, who works with Jack Kornfield now, her big book is Radical Acceptance. She's a psychologist, so she goes kind of deep into how we can change. Pema Chodron has a number of really beautiful little books. When Things Fall Apart is one of her first ones, I believe. And she's a Tibetan Buddhist nun. So she goes into the specific teachings of Tibetan Buddhism, but she's so down to earth, it makes complete sense. So I really recommend her. Altered Traits is, if you're interested in the science and how they're proving how meditation works, that has a lot of stuff in it. Richie Davidson at UW-Madison is one of the main authors of that. And if you go down a ways, at the bottom, print where I wrote it, Buddha's Brain by Rick Hansen, that also talks about the neuroscience. And I think that where I did that hand model of the brain, I think that I got that from there. So he's very good. There's some websites and guided meditation practices I mentioned. And if you, I do have down there Healthy Minds app, which I've mentioned. That's from UW-Madison. It's so convenient, free. There's little talks and little guided meditations from 5 minutes to 40 minutes. So it's really handy. Palouse Mindfulness is a website that I found. Another teacher recommended it. If you really want to go into, take some time to like take a full course that's really in depth on your own. It's a free website. It goes through the mindfulness-based stress reduction 8-week class with all these speakers who have YouTubes on there, little videos, and amazing tools. Some of the things I'm going to use later in the course I got from that. So if you ever have time for that, that's really valuable.
Thank you for these.
Welcome. We'll close with a seated meditation, and you can stay to talk and finish the M&Ms, and we'll see you next week. Whoa, try it again. Sitting, feeling our body, feeling our breath. Letting the thoughts and experiences of the evening settle. Coming back to the next breath. Thanks for your practice. I have to mention an experience I had this week. I was really having trouble concentrating, and I decided I was going to count the number of thoughts that occurred, okay? Which was rather challenging, and it did help me to focus better because I was more noticing when a thought occurred rather than just going with it. I said, oh, there's a thought. I got up to about 10, and that's when time was up. And it was, not very long. But what I noticed was that there's different levels of thought. Some of them were just little micro thoughts that just kind of occurred to me and went away. And some of them were a little more extended, where it may be a whole breath. I noticed a little train of thought. That was kind of interesting. I hadn't noticed that before.
I wonder what makes a thought longer.
Yeah, I think part of it is being willing to pay attention to the thought.
Sometimes the micro thoughts are things like, oh, I gotta add that to the grocery list. But then you try to come back to it and remember what you
Yes.
were thinking. And
Uh-huh.
what was that? I don't know. So I guess if you really want to remember it later, it becomes a longer thought, maybe.
Or if an emotion is tied to it,
Yeah.
you're subconsciously addicted to that emotion.
That is challenging. If something occurs to you in meditation that you really want to remember, what do you do about it? Some people have a notepad and write something down, then it takes care of it,
Yes, that is.
rather than think, oh, I gotta remember that and keep coming back to it. But for the most part, I think if it's important, we'll remember it.
That's true. And those are the same kind of thoughts that can keep you awake at night.
Yeah.
I've read too, like you should just get up and make a to-do list, and then maybe your brain will be like, okay,
Right.
you got this.
Do you have a nighttime ritual for your sleeping? Do you struggle to sleep?
Not to get to sleep, but to stay asleep. And it doesn't happen all the time, but if sometimes I wake up and it's 1 a.m. and I'm just wide awake, and I can lie there for 2 hours and not fall back asleep. So sometimes I turn on a white noise app, sometimes I try meditating.
Get up and walk
Breathe.
the streets.
I even get up and have some sleepy time tea,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is hilarious because you read the back of it. They had this one sleepy time tea and said, drink 3 full cups before bed.
Yeah, you can be up to the bathroom all night.
For good night's sleep.
Or
I'm
just
like,
steep it extra long.
3 cups.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
There's so many things in the world that don't make sense and people just accept them. Day after day, like, my son has a really clever sense of humor we discovered the other day, but it was funny because I was thinking the same thing he was. We were talking about this TV show Alone,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the places that it's a reality show where people have to survive alone.
Okay.
And some places where they put them there's bears.
Mm.
And the training they give them to try to like deal with the bear is to say, hey bear, hey bear, hey bear. And my husband's like, why do they say hey bear? But then, do they not know that they're bears? So I was like, yeah, they hear that, hey bear, and they're like, what? Where? Where's the bear? I gotta get out of here. So like, that just seems crazy.
Oh, you're funny, Alice. I just see really
Things differently.
You sure do. I love it. I love it. I never know what I'm gonna get when you start talking. It's so wonderful. It's so wonderful and refreshing.
Well, I think it's my students that keep me like that, so, teaching middle schoolers, you never know what they're going to say.
Yeah.